Hey, good evening. Sorry, running just a couple minutes behind. If anyone can hear me, if they could please respond in the chat room. Okay. Just having some issues sharing my screen right now. Let us see here. And all right. Sorry about the delay there. There we go. I think we are all set. So technology, always new to me. We are now, in addition to doing these webinars through Zoom, we're actually streaming them to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, our Facebook business page, I should say. So if you have a chance, please, I would certainly appreciate it if you have an opportunity to go to our YouTube page, which is Own the Roof. And subscribe there. You'll get all the content, all the webinars that we're doing from now on. We're going to be live streaming and posting those finished products up on YouTube. So, for example, we did one on Monday, I think was the how to get approved for a down payment assistance program. We're doing, they're much shorter webinars. They're typically about 20 minutes. I'm doing Monday and Tuesday at noon from 12 to 12:30. And then obviously Wednesday evening, I do the top 10 programs that I'm working with to purchase with no money down. Thursdays, I'd like to focus on different credit building tools that are out there. So twice a month, I do a very comprehensive credit webinar, how to get your credit score up 60 points in 60 days. And on that webinar, we do take a very deep dive. I'm finding that there are quite a few people who have had their had some missteps with the credit during COVID, and a lot of people got their credit was banged up as a result of COVID. So I'm finding people are seeing a lot of value in that. And then few times a month, I'm just, for example, tomorrow, I guess is a better way to put it, I'm doing a webinar on how to build credit. So if you are in the process of rebuilding credit, tomorrow evening would be a great webinar for you. Or if you know of anyone that has no credit, great way to kick things off and to build it. Or if you just want to have some more information just for your own personal knowledge on how to build your credit quickly, that's what we're going to focus on tomorrow evening. And then Saturdays, I'm going to be doing webinars Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And the 10 a.m. webinar is just designed to go over, basically give people a quick market snapshot. I'm finding that what we see in the media and what's actually taking place in the marketplace are two different things. So, for example, if you look at the media right now, they think the real estate market's coming apart at the seams, and that could very well be on the horizon. But right now, nothing could be further from the truth. We're actually seeing a more competitive real estate market now than we did the past couple of years. So it's not that we are having some success getting these offers through on a lot of these down payment assistance programs and grants we're going to talk about this evening. But we actually have to take a few trips to the plate, and we got to keep swinging. So, but patience and persistence always prevail. That's my opinion and philosophy. So it's easier to say since I've been doing this a while. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is John Collins. I work with National Realty Centers. I tend to spend a lot of time educating people on different down payment assistance programs and grants. Before I got back into the real estate industry about 7 years ago, I spent over 20 years in the mortgage business, focusing on a lot of these programs, and had a principal position at a mortgage company as well as a title insurance company. So I've been doing this since 1987. So I have a pretty diverse background and pretty in-depth knowledge of the mortgage, real estate, and title space. And what I don't know, I'll be the first one to admit I don't know everything. I'm learning every day. But if I don't have the answer, I will certainly tell you that and try to locate someone that does have the answer. So, but anyways, we're going to spend probably about 40 minutes going through things this evening. I'm going to start off basically going over some of the success stories, the why I do this. Probably we'll go over some frequently asked questions before we dive into the top 10, but I promise you I'm going to have you out of here in about 45 minutes. And for those of you that have questions, please, if you hang on to the end, I'll be happy to answer as many questions as you have. And for those of you that hang on, I do have 3 surprises with regards to different things that are available for first-time home buyers right now. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to jump right into the why. I tend to work with a lot of renters. That's just something I've always had a passion for. And lately, I have noticed the past couple of years, the rental market is about as disheartening as I've ever seen it. I have never seen rents skyrocket at a rate that they are right now. And I'm going to apologize in advance because every time I do one of these webinars, I always have an investor in the audience. And I hope you are the exception for what I'm going to say. But over the past few years, I have watched good landlords turn into poor ones and poor ones turn into, unfortunately, slumlords. What you get for your money in the rental market right now is extremely disheartening. And unfortunately, I don't have a very rosy outlook. So just to kind of give you a feel for it, I'm a big numbers person and I like to back my numbers up with charts. The first one, so I'll make this brief, is the Home Affordability Index. And this is really targeted towards renters that are looking to bridge over to purchasing. Well, right now, this survey was actually done at the end of 2022. We can see that the Home Affordability Index is the lowest it has been in the past 15 years. So that is a byproduct of the shortage of rentals that are out there and the increased interest rates as well. So next thing I want to focus on are the actual rental rates. And this is the one slide that I really like to drive home because this is actually a national slide. And it was created back in 2022, looks like February 2022. But if we look at this slide, we can see back in 2017, and I always like to focus on things that are in our marketplace. And in my opinion, what are plentiful in our marketplace are 2-bedroom apartments. Okay. So if you look at the gray line on this slide, you're going to see that's what the 2-bedroom apartments are on a national level. And oddly enough, Southeastern Michigan actually is reflective of what the national average is. So if we look at 2017, a 2-bedroom apartment was about $100. Now, fast forward to 2022, and this was January, we can see where that gray line is north of, it's basically at 1,300. Well, right now in southeastern Michigan, the average 2-bedroom apartment in Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties just surpassed $1,350 a month. Okay. And that's not, that's not a high-end flashy apartment. That is a basic average apartment. Okay. Now they are actually forecasting that rentals are going to increase at a rate of 8.5% a year for the next 5 years. So as crazy as it sounds, they are forecasting a 2-bedroom apartment in the Detroit area to surpass $1,700 a month in 5 years. Okay. So sometimes the programs that we're going to go through this evening, they may seem painful, but if you let me go through all of the numbers with you, you're going to realize that actually purchasing a house right now can actually be less expensive than if you were going to go out and rent. Okay. And I'll back that up with some numbers in just a minute. So the next one, it was a survey that was given to renters. This was back at the end of 2021. And the questions, or the top three answers of the survey, well, the questions were, what was holding a renter back from pursuing home ownership? And 38% of the respondents said they just didn't have enough saved for a down payment. Okay. Well, tonight, my goal is to take that portion away. Okay. The money part is the easy side of things. Okay. The next most popular score was credit. And no question, a lot of people, like I said, the credit has been banged up with COVID. So I do a very comprehensive credit repair webinar to help people get their scores up 60 points in 60 days. If we need more help than that, then no question, I'm in there for that. So never hesitate to reach out to me. I do have quite a few people that I work with to actually restore credit, and I do it at a fraction. Actually, I do it for free, but I always tell people I do it at a fraction of the price of what the large national companies will charge you. And the reason I say I do it for free is, as long as you buy a house from me, I refund all of that money to you. Okay, at the time of closing, I'll give you a big credit for it. Never really done that, but just for the fact that most of the people that I end up working with end up buying in such a short period of time. But just the same, every now and then I get awake with people, and I kind of question my sanity, and maybe you should probably start charging for that right out of the gate. But just the same, always happy to have that conversation with people to find out what's the best path to get your score where it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to actually put some links in here periodically. And when I say in here, I'm speaking to the chat room. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat room. I go through that chat room periodically if I'm actually on topic, and try to answer those questions as they come in. Otherwise, like I said, I'll take care of all of them by the end of this evening. I'm actually putting in a link right now. This link is to my credit webinar. Okay. So if you click on that link and register, you'll automatically get alerts to when my next credit webinar is. I'm also going to put in a link to my calendar. Do not hesitate to schedule some time with me. If you go into my calendar, no down payment required.org/book, you will get a direct access to my calendar to block out a 30-minute call. Whether you want to talk about the different programs that are out there, what I always like to do is put myself in your shoes. Let me ask you some questions. I can put myself in your shoes and tell you exactly what I would do from a credit standpoint, or from what program is going to be the best fit too. So anyways, I'll put those up periodically this evening as well. So with this, you can see the top two answers. Number one, down payment. Number two, credit score. So the two biggest concerns, I like to take that weight off of people's shoulders. Okay. I will be happy to work with you and get you past those two biggest hurdles. The third hurdle is actually income. Well, here it's the coronavirus. 31% of the people said that's what held them back. The next income. Okay. I do have a program that worked great for low income. But just the same, you do have to have some type of income. They have to make sure that your income is sufficient to support the house payment down. These programs, they are not setting anybody up for failure. They want you to be in a successful home ownership for the duration. Okay. So those are the reasons why I want to jump into some of the success stories. And these are houses that we've actually just recently closed. Okay. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes just glossing over some of these. This first one was actually, it says Rich, but Rich and Nicole purchased this house in East Point. Okay. Actually, it should be Rohan and Nicole. So they just closed on this one last week. They purchased this house for $168,000. At the time that they made their offer, they did have to give a $2,000 deposit. Okay. And at closing, they only needed $1,342. So for a total of $3,342, they were able to buy this 3-bedroom brick ranch. This actually had a family room on it too, 1-car attached garage, hardwood floors throughout, great quality house in East Point, full basement underneath that was finished too. So now for this particular program, they tapped into 2 different programs. One was a Flagstar gift program where they give you 3% for the down payment. They also have a grant program that's called their Power Up program that gave $5,000. So they were able to tap into over $10,500 in what I call free money. Okay, that's money they didn't have to pay back. They've received it at the time of closing, and it's theirs to keep. They could sell that house tomorrow, and that 10,000 is theirs. Okay, so I always like to tap into grant programs if at all possible. Nothing beats free money. Okay, the next person, next deal. This one was actually Detroit. This one was actually, I think this was on Riverdale. Down by Detroit Diesel area, Telegraph and 96 area. Nice brick ranch, 3-bedroom, hardwood floors. This house was actually very well maintained. The purchase price was $115,000. They only needed $1,000 deposit when they made their offer. And at the time of closing, all they needed was $198.80. So they actually were able to buy this house with less than $1,200 out of pocket. Okay. For this program, they actually tapped into a $10,000 down payment assistance program through the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. Okay. That's one of my favorite programs. It's one of those, the 10,000 isn't always available, but the state always has money out there. Okay. Next one I want to focus on was, this was a customer, their son bought this home in Redford. Purchase price was $170,000. He was able to only needed $1,500 deposit at the time that the offer was presented, and then needed less than $2,000 at closing. So for this particular house, we did tap into that state of Michigan program for $10,000, and we were able to get $2,000 concession from the seller. So the seller helped out on the closing costs to the tune of $2,000. That way he was able to get in with less than $3,500 out of pocket. And when I say out of pocket, that's total from start to finish. Okay. The next one is one in Grosse Pointe Woods. This was a house, I was actually so happy for this young lady. So it was a 3-bedroom. Actually, I take that back. This might have been a 2-bedroom brick ranch in Grosse Pointe Woods. Purchase price was $158,000. Okay. We did, at the time that the offer was made, we had a $1,000 deposit that was collected. And at the time of closing, she only needed $1,661. So she was able to get into this house with just $2,661 out of pocket. Now, on this one, we did tap into a 3% gift program that was available through Flagstar Bank. And the seller, actually, we were able to negotiate 3% seller concessions. So the seller gave us $4,740 on this one. So I wish I had a lot, what I wouldn't give to have a lot more houses in Grosse Pointe like this. So this one was about as much of a no-brainer as I run into. This was in an area, obviously, of a much more pricey. Just the same, we had to make a few offers on houses, but patience and persistence, in my opinion, always pays off. And then here is one. This was for Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright purchased this one in Mount Morris. Boy, he got a lot of house for the money here. This was a big, sprawling brick ranch. I don't remember exactly how big it was, but it was probably 1,500 square feet. But as you can see, it had a 2-car attached garage. Purchase price for the house in Mount Morris was $155,000. At the time his offer was made, we did have to collect a $1,500 deposit, and the amount due at closing was $740. So in this case, we did tap into the gift program, which was a 3% gift, which covered all of the down payment. And then the seller contributed $4,500 to concessions. So we had over $9,000 that was paid from outside sources on this one. So great 3-bedroom brick ranch, 1950s construction, which is some of the, in my opinion, is probably some of the best construction this country's ever seen. So anyways, those are some scenarios, or those are some success stories. All 5 of these houses have all happened within the past 2 to 3 months. Okay. Now, before we get into the top 10, I want to go over some of the most frequently asked questions that I get from people. Okay. Just want to check here. Oh, sorry. I've got some people in my waiting room here. Sorry, latecomers. I didn't realize I had some people sitting in the waiting room. So I certainly appreciate it. We just were going over some of the programs, some of the success stories that we've had. Right now, I'm going to go over some of the frequently asked questions before we jump right into the top 10 programs that I'm currently working with to get into a home with 0 down. So right now, the number one question that I always get regarding these programs are, how long does it take? Especially because I do, like I said, work with a lot of renters. Okay. I find that most of the programs that I recommend can be processed and done within 30 days. That's 30 days from when we get a house under contract. Okay. It could be, we could get a house under contract in a couple of days. It could be a few weeks. Okay. It's hard to say. Like I said, patience and persistence is the key there. But once we get that contract accepted, typically it's going to take 30 days. There is one program, possibly 2, that could take a little bit longer than 30 days, and I will let you know. Definitely my number 3 program, but I just want to make sure that you guys know from a timing standpoint, if there is some pressure because your lease is ending and you can't get things on a month-to-month, I need to know that so we make sure that we get you approved for a couple of programs that are going to meet your timeline. Okay. And I say a couple of programs because I don't necessarily like getting people approved for just one program. I prefer to see people get approved for a couple. Okay. That way, if one doesn't work, we've got a couple of different levers to pull. Okay. Eligible properties. All right, these programs do not lend themselves to major renovations, okay? The homes must be in good habitable condition. They have to have working mechanicals like furnace, water heater, things like that, okay? Cosmetic things are absolutely fine, okay? If it has a 1950s kitchen in it, that's okay. As long as it's functioning, as long as the bathrooms are functioning, it's all good. Doesn't matter how old it is, okay? Sometimes if we see a lot of peeling paint, that could be an issue, but paint and getting somebody to paint is cheap. I still say move forward those ones, okay? But if you're thinking, looking for extra money to do some major renovations, these programs do not play well for that, okay? So just remember, houses need to be in decent habitable condition. Almost all of the programs we're going to talk about this evening, I would say 8 out of the 10, maybe 7 out of the 10 do have some income restrictions. Okay, they are quite generous. So for example, the state program, your income just needs to be below 90,000. A few other programs might be below 70, but outside of that, it's, there are a few programs that go well in excess, and a couple of programs in excess of 100, and a couple of programs have no income restrictions whatsoever. So everyone can possibly fit. All right. But we do have to know what your income is to make sure we're not putting you in an incorrect program. Debt to income requirement. Every program has debt to income requirements and credit requirements. So I know this slide says a minimum of 620 on the credit score side. That is not correct. Actually, we have 3 programs this evening where your scores just need to be above a 600 and you're good. Okay. I always tell people with the credit tools that I have available to get your credit scores up, as long as your credit score is 580 or higher, there should be no reason to hold you back. It's not very challenging for me to get someone's credit scores up 20 points in 30 days. Okay, so if your credit scores are in the mid 500s or above, there's no question we should be talking just to take a deeper dive, if not for anything else, to let you know what levers are out there for you to pull so you can get those scores up and get a quick spike. Okay, debt to income requirements. Debt to income is they do not want to see more than, I have 50%. Most of them are 45%. They don't want to see more than half of your income, roughly, going to your house payment and your overall debts. Okay. So what does that mean? When they calculate your debt to income ratios, they are looking at your gross income. Okay. So let's just say your income is $25 an hour and you're working 40 hours a week. Okay. Um, Say with overtime and everything, let's say you're making $60,000 a year. Okay. We know that no more than 50% of your income should go to your house payment, your new house payment, and the bills that are showing up on your credit report. Okay. Not all your bills, just the ones on the credit report. So they're just gonna be looking for things like auto loans, credit cards, student loans, personal loans, things like that. So if you have an income, like I said, of 60,000, that's $5,000 a month. And in the mortgage world, they break everything down to monthly basis. So if half of your income, half of 5,000 is 2,500, and we subtract maybe $500 for a car payment, takes us down to 2,000, maybe another 200 for credit cards or student loans, that takes you down to 1,800. I mean, 1,800, that's buying a 100, 200, $225,000 house right now. I always like to focus on 150,000 because right now 150,000 is working out to about a $1,200 house payment for most people. Okay, cheaper than a two-bedroom apartment. So and when I say 50,000, that's a nice quality house, especially if you reflect on what we just talked about a few moments ago with regards to some of those houses or samples. Let me just you would have thought I'd commit this to memory. So the one in East Point, 168,000, that would have been about 1,200. The one in Detroit, the payment on that one's probably closer to $900. The one in Redford, probably probably 1,300, just because that was at 170. The one in Grosse Pointe, that payment was about 1,200, and the one in Mount Morris was probably about 1,200 because that was at about 158,000. Okay, so just to kind of give you a feel for how your money spends on a payment standpoint. So, if I'm putting a good quality brick ranch in front of you and the payments are going to be $1,200 versus a two-bedroom apartment is going to be over $1,300, and it's only going to cost you a few $1,000s to buy the house, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer at that point, at least in my opinion. So let me go on with the frequently asked question. You have to be a first-time home buyer to qualify for these programs. The answer is no. So some of the programs, they do call it a first-time home buyer, but a first-time home buyer is typically defined as someone that just hasn't owned a home in the past 3 years. So without fail, I get one or two people a month that had the misfortune of getting tripped up back at the meltdown in 2008 and maybe have lost a home. Well, you're a first-time home buyer if you haven't purchased anything since. Okay, so that opens up a few more doors for you. Some of the programs, actually, the top program we're going to talk about this evening, that one just requires that you don't have a home in your name. Okay, so that particular one, which is through Flagstar Bank, that program is a zero down grant program. It's by far away my favorite program. That one, I had a lady a couple of months ago that actually inherited a house, and she hasn't lived there since she was a child, but her uncle has lived there, even before her, both parents passed away. So, she couldn't evict her uncle. So, but she didn't want to live there and she wanted to buy a new house. So all she did was deed that house over to her uncle, and she was able to qualify for the number one program, the zero down grant through Flagstar, we're going to talk about shortly. Okay, so there are options for all scenarios. We just need to know what yours is, and we can usually point you in the right direction. All right, next one. How do you locate a lender for these programs? We're going to go over all of them in just a minute, I promise. The How do you connect with these lenders, though? I would ask you, please reach out to me, okay? I am very, very happy to connect you and make that introduction to the lenders. Keep in mind, a lot of the lenders that I'm going to talk about this evening, these are national lenders that have thousands of loan officers that work there, okay? I do not know many of them there. I just work with the ones that know how to get things done and that I can hold accountable if you run into some hiccups. Okay. So please allow me to make that introduction for you. Without fail, every other month, I have someone that comes and says, "Hey, John, ready to get going, but I'm connected with, a couple of months ago, I had somebody who was connected with a gentleman from Bank of America out of their call center down in Florida, down in Jacksonville, Florida. So unfortunately, the communication was a little lax because I just don't know him. Where if I would have connected them with the Bank of America guy that I have locally here that I have a rapport with and send him business, we're going to be able to hold somebody accountable to get that thing done. Maybe a little bit faster, maybe a little less painful too. Okay. So, but anyways, please allow me to make that introduction for you. Happy to do it. And the last thing, a lot of people ask, where does the money come from for these programs? And they comes from many different places. For the first and foremost, two of the programs we're going to talk about this evening through the state of Michigan, those come from from bond sales from the state of Michigan. Okay, there's also grants that are funded with federal money, and there's also fines that have been levied. Okay, not to pick on Bank of America here, but Bank of America was actually, this was back in 2014. I like to use this example because they were issued a fine, okay, as all the banks were fined back for the meltdown, okay? Not all of them, but the majority of them had substantial fines or substantial penalties that were agreed to for practices that weren't really considered ethical or great. I don't know what you want to say there. But anyways, in this case, Bank of America was fined $16.65 billion. They took $4 billion back in 2014 and put it into a fund that underwrites the program, the number 3 program that I'm going to talk about tonight. Okay. Just to give you a feel for it, here we are 9 years later. Out of that $4 billion that was originally set aside for it, there's $3 billion left the last time I asked a couple of months ago. Okay. So the banks are just dripping this money out. Okay. And I don't know that they're dripping it out because they want to, or it's because the programs just don't get the attention. Okay. So another reason for, please allow me to make that introduction to a loan officer. Okay. When I make a recommendation for a program, every now and then, if people stray to a loan officer that I'm not aware of, sometimes they might kind of say, forget that program. You've got money in your savings account. Why don't we use it and go over here to this other program? Because it may be a little bit quicker. But no, there's free money on the table here. And I would pick it up if I were doing it. And my kids are in this buying mode right now. Their friends all pick it up. So please do not, if that money's on the table, it's there for a reason. Please try and pick it up if you can. Okay. Don't let somebody talk you out of it. At least first talk to me. Let me know. I'll be happy to give you my thoughts on it and give you my honest input. So anyways, those are the frequently asked questions. Anyone, please feel free to put them right in the chat room. 2012. Oh, great, Gail. So if you haven't owned since 2012, you definitely would be a first-time home buyer. Gail was just saying that she has not owned a home since 2012. So, all right. So lots of money out there for you. All right. So sorry for popping in and out like that. All right. So now, with that being said, I'm going to jump into my top 10 programs. Okay. The first 2 programs, number 9 and 10, are actually both through the state of Michigan. Okay. The state of Michigan, the acronym, people call it MISHDA is the acronym, but it's the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. Okay. I've been doing this since 1987. Mishta was around back in 1987. Back then, they only gave away 2,500. Now they're giving away 7,500. So what they do back then, they gave you the 2,500. You were able to keep it. Now what they're doing is they give you an interest-free loan. Okay. So they have two programs, and I'll talk about them both at the same time. The 7,500 is available anywhere in the state of Michigan. They have a second one that's $10,000. That's available in 236 zip codes throughout the state. It's got great representation in southeastern Michigan. Okay. Now, this typically is what I consider the gold standard. The 7,500, this program is always out there. Okay, no matter what happens in the marketplace. Just to give you an example, back when COVID hit, the people didn't realize, but the mortgage market ceased for a short period of time. This area did not. Okay, so here's a question from someone: what happens when the economy collapses and the banks collapse? Well, I guess that's something you're still going to owe someone. I can guarantee you that someone will be there to pick up the pieces. So, for example, on the Mishta loans, this particular one is an interest. Both of these products are interest-free loans. So they're going to give you $7,500 or $10,000 to use to purchase a home. That money can 100% cover your down payment, and whatever's left over can be used to cover your closing costs. Okay. Some of the downsides with this program is it does require a 640 minimum credit score. Purchase prices have to be below $224,500. They do have some income restrictions, and those restrictions are for a 1 to 2 person family household. Your income needs to be below 90,000. There are a couple of counties that'll go up to 141,000. And then there are income levels that creep up. They go up a little bit higher for households of 3 or more. So for households of 3 or more, you can actually go up to 103,000. If you happen to be looking in Washtenaw County, it'll actually go up to 165,000. Okay. The only contribution that's required on the buyer's side, which would be your side, is 1% of the sale price. Okay. So if the house is 150,000, you've got to have at least $1,500 into the transaction. Okay. So let me give you a feel for how that works. We're going to run an example here on this one that I have coming on the market within the next 1,200 square foot, a brick ranch, actually in East Point. The price on this one's going to be $120,000. Okay. To buy this house, I'm going to go over the closing costs first. The purchase price would be about $120,000. The taxes are $1,500 a year. The closing costs would be about $2,000. The homeowner's insurance should be about $1,000. Your title insurance will be about $1,200. So to purchase this home without any $5,700. Okay, so if we go over to the lower left-hand corner, you'll see that MSHDA acronym there, the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. This is how this particular program how I would structure the transaction. So for example, the down payment, if you're doing a conventional loan, would be 3% or $3,600. If you're doing an FHA underwritten product, it might be $4,000. Okay, not that much different. So closing costs would be $5,700. So when we total the two of those up, someone could actually purchase this home with a 3% down, with closing costs with $9,300 out of pocket. Now, remember, the state of Michigan has two programs, the $7,500 or $10,000. This home actually sits in a $10,000 zone. Okay, so we would actually tap the down payment assistance program for $8,100. Remember, this house needs 1% of the purchase price into the transaction in order to do it. That's just the state's minimum requirement. So 1% of 120,000 is $1,200. Okay, so that's going to be your minimum skin in the game on this one. So great way to buy a house. $1,200, you're in. Okay. Next program we want to talk about, number 8 on my list. Okay, I've got a question here. How young or old someone is effective? How? Not quite sure. Well, young or old someone is affect getting a loan? Yes and no. Okay, young. You have to be at least 18 years old in order to purchase a house. You have to be 18 to sign a contract to be a legal binding agreement. As far as how old, that you cannot discriminate for age. So someone could be 90 years old. They could be, their income could be coming from Social Security or fixed income assets. No problem at all. Okay, as long as their debt to income ratios are in alignment, their credit's there, you're good to go. Okay, hope that answers your question. Actually, oddly enough, this particular housing in the San, okay, I sold this house and the house right next door. They're both, I know one is going to be available. The other person expressed interest in selling theirs too. One of the people were actually, when I sold it to them 3 years ago, I think she was either 20 or 21 years of age. Okay, so she was quite young, but she did have some credit scores and things established. So anyway, so just to give you a feel, as long as you have some credit, and even if you don't have credit scores established, there are programs available to build credit by creating an alternative credit, using alternative credit to create a credit profile. So there are a couple of programs that I will go over this evening that will offer that type of service as well too. So if you have someone that has no credit, there are options. So don't click credit there that we can't do anything. All right, back to number 8 on my list of top 10 ways to purchase with no money down. Rural development loans. Okay, so rural development loans are actually through the United States Department of Agriculture. They allow people to purchase with no money down. The downside with this program is it is only available in areas that have a low population density. So it doesn't really serve well in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties, although there are areas that do cover it. So for example, if you're in Macomb County, you need to be well north of M59. If you're in Oakland County, you need to be west of Milford, west of South Lyon. If you're in Wayne County, you need to be southwest of the Metro Airport, okay, all the way to the southwest corner of Washtenaw County. Those areas do work well for rural development. Monroe County works well. A lot of Washtenaw County, if you stay outside of Ann Arbor and Ypsi, those areas work well. And of course, Livingston, Washtenaw, and all the other surrounding counties. So great way to buy a house. There are some income restrictions here, but it's very generous, and it will allow people to go up. Heck, I did one last year that was in excess of 400,000 on a rural development. Nice thing about rural development, no money down. Minimum credit scores, they're a little bit more flexible right now. You're getting deals on rural development down to 600, and they will go down to 580 with a manual underwrite. And what that means that if common sense prevails, the underwriters, those are the people that approve the loans, they have the ability to manually approve a loan with credit scores down to 580. Okay. Unfortunately, all the closing fees apply on this one, and they have a little bit tighter debt to income ratios. Okay. So we just need to keep that in mind. But to give you a feel for how a zero down program works, look at the lower right-hand side. You'll see USDA, RD, and zero grant programs. So how I would structure this type of program, zero down. So obviously there's no down payment. Then all we have to really be concerned with are the $5,700 in closing costs. Now, on a lot of these programs, the seller can pay anywhere between 3, 4, 5, in some cases up to 6% towards the closing costs. So let's say we found a seller that was somewhat motivated. We could ask them to pay $4,000. You could actually buy this house only $1,700 out of pocket. Okay. This particular house wouldn't qualify because it's right in East Point, but just the same, I'm using this as a sample. Okay. So that kind of gives you an idea of how I would structure down payment assistance and how we'd structure one that had a zero down. Okay. Grant or whichever program we rely on. All right. The next one, number 7 on my list of 10 are there any veterans in the audience this evening? I did ask that. If there are, thank you very much for your service. I do appreciate it. I actually really enjoy doing VA loans. I actually prefer, I think VA loans are more predictable now than FHA. I don't know that anybody does enough VA to be an absolute expert at it in Southeastern Michigan. But I will tell you, I found that VA has actually been a little bit more flexible on appraisals, in my opinion, than FHA has. So nice thing about VA, if you are a veteran, obviously you can purchase with no money down. You have to be a veteran to qualify. There's no mortgage insurance. Most lenders require a minimum credit score of 580. I will tell you, technically, VA does not have any credit scores. And if we shop around, there are lenders that will go below 580. What happens is a lot of lenders have overlays and basically say that even though VA doesn't have a credit score requirement, the lenders won't do their guidelines are they won't do below a 580. I did get a 550 done last month. Okay. It was a lot of work, but we were able to get across the finish line. Okay. The next one, minimum closing fees. Actually, VA is the only program I'm aware of where a veteran can buy a house with absolutely no money out of pocket. So, for example, if we collected a deposit and at the time of closing, you could get that deposit back if the seller paid all your closing fees. Okay. And the debt to income requirements for VA are a lot more flexible than the published 41. I'm finding that 50% it's turning out to be a new norm for VA. So things might be changing a little bit. I am seeing some guidelines on conventional tightening up a little bit. So who knows, maybe the pendulum on some of these programs that are easing up might swing back the other way. I don't know, but stay tuned. I'll let you know as I learn. But VA, great program. Any veterans out there, thank you very much for your service. I have a couple of questions. Just one. Oh, got it. Someone's just saying they want to move to Monroe. Great. Monroe has a very good, a lot of programs available in Monroe. The rural development one that we were just talking about is good in most of Monroe, with the exception of downtown Monroe area and as you're along Lake Erie. Okay, those are more densely populated areas. So as long as you stay, a few miles, several miles off the lake and outside of downtown Monroe, you should be fine for that rural development if that's what you were referring to. Okay, so the next program, back to the VX on my list of 10 is the Supreme Dream. Now, this Supreme Dream is actually through a lender called Supreme Lending. Okay, I like this this program because it doesn't have any income requirements and it's available in all areas and all states. Okay, they actually, as long as you have a 640 credit score, they will give you 3.5% for down payment assistance. And as long as you make your payments on time with that loan, that 3.5% down payment assistance money is yours to keep after 5 years. Okay. So they actually will place a second lien on the house for the 3.5%. So let's say you're buying a house for $200,000. They'll give you $7,000 to use for the down payment. Okay. You make your payments on time. They're going to, at the time of you take out the mortgage, they're going to put a lien on the house for the first mortgage, which would be $193,000. Then there might be a second mortgage for $7,000. Like I said, you make your payments on time for 5 years. That second mortgage of $7,000 goes away, so it's yours to keep. Okay, so great program by Supreme Lending. Number 5, this one's actually through Guaranteed Rate. This is actually a Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae is there's two large lenders out there, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Okay, they are government lending institutions that are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. It's where 80% to 90% of all mortgages come from this area. Okay, they have a program now where they will give you, you're going to give you a conventional loan, but they're going to give you $5,000 to use towards your down payment. Now, on top of that 5,000, guaranteed rate will give you 1% of the loan amount. So it's a $300,000 loan, they'll give you $3,000. They'll also pay for your appraisal. They'll give you an appraisal credit at closing of $500, and they'll cover your home warranty up to $400 if you decide to get a home warranty. Only so if you total all of those up, I mean, we're looking at $8,900 that's on the table if you're purchasing a house for $300,000. So credit scores need to be 620 FICO for one borrower or two or more borrowers as approved by DU. Okay, DU is direct underwriting. That's the automated underwriting system, basically a computer system that's going to underwrite this. Okay, if you get a DU approval, then you're good. Okay, so at least one of the occupying borrowers must be a first-time home buyer. So if two people are buying a house together, one's owned a house, one isn't, you're good. Okay, so and that person has the first-time home buyer has to complete the home buyer education course. The buyer must have at least 3% of their own money into the transaction. So if you're buying a $200,000 house, 3%, you've got to have $6,000 into the transaction. Okay, that's your minimum skin in the game. They will allow the seller to pay closing costs up to 3%. The other thing is you have to be moving from a moderate income area or income census tract in order to qualify for this program. Okay, so if you're moving in more from a more of a affluent area, probably not going to work. But if you're in some of the areas that, for example, maybe 80% of the city of Detroit might qualify for this in some of the surrounding areas. Okay, so good program, $8,900, a lot of money to be offered on this one. Number 5 on my list of 10. The next one's actually the Chenoa Fund. Now, the Chenoa Fund, compared to some of the other programs, it can be a little pricey to get into, but it is very flexible on things. So credit scores in particular. So your credit score just has to be above 600. There are no income limits, and there are no debt to income requirements. But keep in mind, we do need to get an automated system approval, but they're flexible on debt to income ratios. Okay, there's no restrictions on areas, good anywhere in the U.S. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer. The nice thing about this one is if there are any aspiring investors out there, if you want to be an investor in the future, you could actually buy a duplex. You could buy a 2-unit property and rent out half of it, okay? Or move into this one, you just have to live in it for 6 months. Move in one unit, rent the other one out for 6 months, and then you can move on to your next one, okay? Nice thing about this program is there's a 3.5% down payment assistance and a 5% down payment assistance. That's either repayable or forgivable. Okay, most people would think, why would I want to do the repayable? Well, the reason is the repayable is a lot less expensive to get into. If you do the forgivable down payment assistance, they charge some points to get into that program. Okay, so it's a lot less expensive to get into, but sometimes it's worthwhile paying those points just to have it forgiven in a few years. Gift funds are allowed for all of the down payments and closing costs. So if you have, here's a perfect example. I had a lady a couple of months ago, lady and husband, their grandfather wanted to see them in a home. Grandpa basically gave them all the money to do it. Okay, and when it came down to it, we were a little bit short on income. Grandpa was able to co-sign for it. Okay, so he co-signed the loan and gave all the money. These people just had to walk in. Okay, it was this is the only program that will, in my opinion, one of the only mainstream programs that will allow for down payment assistance and allow for co-signers. Okay, And to do it with a 600 credit score is highly unusual. That's why this one is as high on my list as it is. Okay. So the Chenoa Fund. Next one, number 3 on my list, the America's Home Grant and Down Payment Grant. This one is actually through Bank of America. Bank of America will contribute up to $17,500 if you check all the boxes. Okay. Now, I will tell you, this is the one program that may take up to 60 days to get across the finish line. Okay. And it is a very painful process, but I will tell you, I'd go through a little bit of pain for $17,000. Okay. So this is actually 2 programs in one. So the first program is a down payment grant where they'll give you the 3% up to $10,000 to cover your down payment. Okay. So that part's taken care of. Then they piggyback that with an American grant. Now, when I say grant, you get to keep all of this money, the $17,000. You're not repaying anything. So, the $7,500 can be used to cover your closing fees. The only thing is they will not allow you to use the $7,500 to cover what they call prepaids. Now, prepaids are like prepaid insurance, prepaid taxes, things like that. Okay. So it's not going to cover everything. So you've got to plan on having, $3,000-$4,000 depending upon the price of the house to cover those items. Okay. So what happens on this particular program though is the $7,500 is usually more than what you need for your closing costs. So what we can do is they can take that extra money. Let me go back to the sample here, and it might be easier to explain. Lower dollars, okay? But are $1,500. The homeowner's insurance is $1,000. They won't include in this program. So if we look at that, then that's going to be $3,200. So what they will allow us to do is credit the 75 towards the 3,200. Okay, the items that aren't prepaids. So that's going to leave $4,200 left over. The nice thing about this program is that $4,200 can be used to buy down your interest rate. Okay. And then it's also, they take a portion of that to buy out your mortgage insurance. So at the end of the day, you're getting interest rates that are going to blow away or anything else that's out there. Okay. And your payments are going to come in very, very low. Again, I don't want to oversell this because it can be a painful process going through it. But if you do have a 640 credit score and you've got the income to support it, this is a nice way to go. Okay. Oh, and time. You need to have 60 days to get this thing across the finish line successfully. Okay. All right. Number 2 on my list. This one is actually Flagstar. This is 2 programs. Okay. Flagstar has a gift program. Now, the gift program, as long as your credit score is above a 680, they will give you 3% of the purchase price to cover your down payment. Your income has to be below 72,000. There's some restrictions, but for the most part, if your income's below 72,000 in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, and your score is above 680, you'll get that 3%. Okay, so if you're buying a $200,000 house, there's $6,000 right out of the gate. Okay, now what they'll do is they piggyback that with a new program that just came out called Flagstar's Power Up. That's a $5,000 grant. You have to be moving from a moderate or low income area in order to qualify for this. Okay, doesn't matter where you're moving to, it's where you're moving from. Okay, so you could take that $6,000 down payment, piggyback it with this $5,000 grant. That's $11,000, and in addition to that, they'll take care of the appraisal, which is $500. So $11,500. So there's a lot of money on the table with this. I actually closed one the very first week it came out, and it was a great. I have to say, it was such a success stories. House right here in East Point. So they were moving from Detroit. They moved to East Point. Flagstar gave them $10,540 and no strings attached. Their money to keep. Okay. Great program. Another thing I like about it is they switched gears on us and program got approved. No one knew what was going on. They did it as a surprise. So, anyways, it was very. So basically, the people were originally looking to do possibly the MSHDA program that was going to give them 10,000. Well, why do the 10,000 we're going to repay when we can switch gears and take the grant money? Okay. So remember I said earlier, we're always going to work to try to get you approved for a couple of different programs, and whichever one's the best, that's the way we're going to go with it. Okay. So anyways, great program, the Flagstar Power Up, coupled along with their gift program. Okay. So great program. That is my Timber program. Is again another one that's through Flagstar Bank. This is Flagstar's Destination Home program. I've been working with this one for about 5 years. Now, they typically, it allows people to purchase with no money down. It's a conventional loan. So it only requires credit scores of 600 or higher. So it also has no mortgage insurance. Now, if you know anything about the industry, if anybody ever came to you and said, if somebody comes to me and says, John, I've got a program that's zero down, credit scores above 600, conventional with no mortgage insurance, I would have said that's too good to be true. It probably doesn't exist. I'm telling you, I've used this program for 5 years. It is one of the best kept secrets, in my opinion, in the financing area. The reason is when I'm making offers, okay, typically a conventional loan is a loan that's available for people with grade A income, grade A assets, and grade A credit. So when I'm making an offer on a house and another agent sees that, hey, wow, John's customer is approved for a zero down conventional, didn't even know that exists. These people must walk on water financially. Oh, of course they do. They have no idea that it's this zero down grant program through Flagstar. So those offers are getting a very long, hard look. And the fact that there's no mortgage insurance saves you anywhere between $100 to $200 a month, depending upon how big, what the purchase price is. They also allow for up to 4% seller concessions, and the debt to income ratios can be up to 45%. That's 45% of your house payment. So if you have no debts, you can go as high as 45% on your house payment. That's really hard to find. The other thing I like about it is this program, they can get it done as quick as you get documents in. I had a lady 2 months ago that got approved and closed in 2 weeks on this program. They have a team dedicated to getting these things done swiftly. Okay. So, but I will tell you that borrower was getting the information into Flagstar the moment they asked for it. Okay. So better to plan on 3 or 4 weeks processing time for this just to be safe. But if speed is key for you, this is definitely a great way to go. Now, this program typically is restricted to moderate to low income areas. I did get word today that they are about to lift that, which they do, every year after a certain amount of time goes by, there's plenty of money left, then they lift the restrictions. They're about to do that. So this program will be good in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Livingston, Washtenaw, Monroe, anywhere typically where Flagstar has a branch, this program can be done. Any county that has a branch is typically, I think, what they look for. Wherever they have brick and mortar, that's where they're willing to do this program. So can't say enough good things about this one. So anyways, I have just rattled through all 10 of those. Sorry, I'm going a little bit over here. Don't hesitate. Please start putting those in the chat room. So I always like to say, where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to put in my contact information. Okay. Actually, we have a pretty light audience tonight. So I put in number 248 825. This the best way to reach me. Okay. There are some other phone numbers out there that I use for advertising. So those numbers work, but I don't monitor anything nearly as much as my cell phone. So I am a glorified phone jockey. I spend a lot of time on the phone. So if I'm not available, please leave a message. Okay. If not, shoot me a text and I'll call you right back between calls. So I getting to get a lot of people that call me and don't leave a message and don't text me. I get so many calls that come in, so much spam lately. I'm sorry to say that I just can't blindly return phone calls not knowing who it's from. Okay, so please just shoot me a text. All right. So, but here is a link to my calendar to book a call too. I do tend to block out 30 minutes. Okay, so they're 20-minute calls. We can go out to 30 minutes. Happy to go over your situation, run the numbers for you, and tell you what I would do if I were in your position. That's always what I find the best way to go. So, and if you need any help on the coaching side for credit, let me give you a link. Here's another link to my credit webinar. Credit.nodownpaymentrequired.org. So please, if you tomorrow, I'll be doing credit webinar, and I do those every Thursday. Okay, and let's see. I'm going to end. You know what? We've still got a few people here. I'm going to ask a favor. If you could please, I'm going to send you a link to my YouTube page. If you could please go out there and subscribe. I'll have the replay for this will be posted. Actually, this is live, so it will get posted right after we're done, but I'll have a more polished up version of it available and uploaded in a couple of days as a video. Okay. But if you go to my YouTube page, click on the live area, you can see where this video is going to be posted. Probably within about 15 minutes, I think it then processes it and then uploads it. So anyways, any questions out there? You are welcome, iPhone. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you all for attending this evening. Not seeing any questions right now, so if you have any, never hesitate to reach out through my cell phone. That's always the best way to reach me. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Or if you want to know, get connected with some of the lenders that we work with, happy to do that with you as well. So, or if you just want to, you know what I should do is I always forget to give people my website. If you are looking for houses, www.miCitySearch.com. Helps if I can type here, SEARCH.com. There you go. That's a link to my website. Okay. Or you can reach it by going to owntheroof.com too. So we're in the process of rebranding and switching everything over to that. So anyways, I thank you all very much. You're welcome, Gail. Thank you for coming this evening. If you have any questions, please never hesitate to reach out. I always like to be that resource, whether it's real estate, title, mortgage. Always happy to give you my input and try and point you in the right direction. You are quite welcome, Janya. Appreciate you coming. All right. Thank you all very much again. Have a great evening and hope our paths cross in the near future. Have a good night. Goodbye. You're welcome, Kim.